Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out next year, and it's going to be set in Vice City, the same setting for maybe the most unique Grand Theft Auto game of them all, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And you know what makes Grand Theft Auto Vice City so unique? The vibes. The vintage hotels, the Hawaiian shirts, the 80s cars, the giant creepy beaches, the abandoned scary mansions, the giant empty swaths of unused land. Yeah, so I've been playing through Vice City recently, and it turns out that even though people say the vibe of the game is like this, it's actually more like this. Only about 10% of the game is the neon dreamscape that you see in trailers and screenshots. The rest of it is really, really strange, and I want to talk to you about that. So today, we're going to take a little tour of 7 locations across the game, each of which relates to a particular aspect that I think makes this game so weird and great. Of course, we'll talk about the iconic hotels and clubs, but we'll also be covering some of those odd places that you may have forgotten were in the game at all. For example, at the very start of the game, you'll find yourself here on Ocean Drive. This is the iconic Vice City look and feel that we all know, featuring its tropical Art Deco hotels, street-side restaurants, beachgoers rollerblading everywhere, and at night, some of the most beautiful neon vibes in the history of video gaming. I'm sure most of you are aware, but Vice City is based heavily on the real city of Miami, Florida, and this stretch of the game is a recreation of world-famous Ocean Drive in Miami Beach. Playing this game for the first time, I was really struck by how many little places jogged hyper-specific memories of the one time I went to Miami. And it wasn't so much the big iconic spots as it was the odd, quiet little places. Take this alleyway, for example. It runs behind all of the buildings on Ocean Drive in real Miami, and you'll often find yourself crossing it to get to the beach, depending on where you're staying, obviously. I had completely blocked this alley from memory because it was literally just a random alley. But as soon as I turned down the equivalent in GTA Vice City, I was instantly flooded with memories of having been there before. What's amazing about this is that the game looks like crap, technically. I think it looks incredible, but it's really low fidelity. And yet, that doesn't really matter that much, if at all. It's still both totally immersive and completely effective at evoking the vibe that it was going for. That maybe speaks more to the ability of the human mind to recognize patterns than it does to the ability of video games to be immersive, but it's amazing either way. One of the other iconic Miami locations that Vice City portrays beautifully is Miami Beach, but only at night. Real Miami Beach during the day looks like this, and in Vice City, it looks like this. Not exactly a spitting image, but the beach at night is really where the game shines, and that's what we'll look at right after I finish eating this delicious blackened salmon with smoky Gouda Cali grits and broccoli. Welcome to the sponsorship. So I was supposed to take footage of me eating that thing that I said to put in while I read the title of the meal, but I didn't. But here's a picture of the package in the garbage just to prove that I did in fact eat it. But that's all I got. Our sponsor today is Factor, of course. If you're totally unfamiliar, Factor is a service where if you pay them, they'll send these freshly made pre-packaged meals to your door that you can make and then eat very quickly. And they will cater these meals to your dietary requirements. I'm sure it's not surprising to hear this, but I tend to stay very busy producing YouTube videos, and while I do like to cook and eat meals from scratch when I can, because food is beautiful and sacred or whatever, if the choice is between getting more YouTube videos out for you to watch or eating a meal made from scratch by me, I'm usually going to pick the YouTube videos because I love my job, which means that Factor is a great fit for me. I said that like this was a normal, like a TV ad. It's the best feeling to always have a meal ready to eat without even having to think about what I might want. Plus, it takes less than 5 minutes to make. You can actually make them in as little as 2 minutes if you use the microwave, but my little tip for you is to cook them in a pan because the texture is better. You can even drizzle a little balsamic on it if you truly want to elevate the experience. Anyway, yeah, I love me some Factor. It helps me stay nourished, it helps me stay focused, and if you want to stay nourished and focused, go to factor75.com and use promo code AnyAustinFB50. That is AnyAustinFB50. The FB is important. If you forget it, you won't get the code. It stands for I don't know what it stands for. It probably stands for Factor Box. I don't know. Why does my teleprompter keep breaking? It's broken. It doesn't matter. Any Austin FB50. I don't need to read any of these facts anymore. Go buy it. Anyway, this is what Vice Beach looks like at night. is incredible. The vibes go from slightly weird and underdeveloped early 2000s video game beach to incredibly atmospheric, life-pondering, nighttime liminal hangout spot. And if you step back and consider the scale of it, it's kind of crazy. See, the real beach in Miami is huge, but it only takes up about 10% of the width of the island. But in the game, the beach takes up half the width of the island. It feels completely absurd in comparison, and the fact that it's almost entirely empty only serves to make it feel more absurd and surreal. But the real beauty of this beach comes in its contrast. Everywhere else you go in the beginning of the game is super intentional and highly detailed for the time. It even has really elaborate indoor spaces like this hotel lobby and cafe, and a completely furnished hotel room for the main character Tommy, which they didn't have any of in Grand Theft Auto 3. Even in 2025, these things still feel impressive to me. But while you're messing around in all of those highly detailed set pieces, the beach is always off to the side, just kind of hovering nearby, looking dark and mysterious. You aren't actually given a reason to come out on the beach in the game, at least not through the main story missions, so ending up here is always something that you do by choice or just out of curiosity. You might walk out here for a minute, realize that it's really big and annoying to get around, and then turn around and never come back. Or you might do what I did and walk out here late at night just to stop and look out over the ocean, which is an important pastime in any GTA game. And that's really when you feel that contrast between the Vice City that we think of and the Vice City that actually is. And that second thing, the Vice City that actually is really what we're going to be focusing on for the rest of this video. The moment that I knew this game was going to be different from other GTA games was the moment I set foot in our next spot, the North Point Mall. I ended up coming here long before one of the missions required it because I was driving around exploring when I saw that one of the doors on the outside of the mall looked sort of open. Mind you, large indoor spaces in GTA games are pretty rare, even in later games. So when I got up to the door, walked in, and then saw the loading screen appear, I was genuinely a little giddy. And I don't get giddy. An entire fully realized mall to explore in a Grand Theft Auto game. Or at least that's what I thought. But just like with the game itself, closer inspection revealed that things were a whole lot stranger than they looked at first glance. And there are tons of odd details that create its iconic atmosphere. When you first walk in, you'll see a food court, which is exciting. I love little niche, real-life spaces getting remade in video games. But this isn't exactly an ordinary food court. For some reason, the eating area is on this weird raised platform that can only be accessed by walking all the way down to the far end, and no NPCs ever actually order or sit down here. The restaurants themselves are all staffed by the exact same guy, more on him later because he's kind of everywhere in this game, and each one has a variation of the same layout with 4 ovens on either end. There's no way to enter or exit the workplace, but it doesn't really matter because the workers, well, the worker, I guess it's just one guy, they never stop working. Each restaurant also has low resolution photos of food as menu boards, and most of them just repeat the same picture for every single one, which makes it feel like you're in a weird dream. I do appreciate that if you angle the camera right, you can see that they did create a little texture for an old school restaurant point of sale computer system. Career servers will know what I'm talking about. Interestingly, the touchscreen computer point of sale was actually invented in 1986, which is the year Vice City is set, by a guy named Gene Mosher. But they did not look anything like they look in the game. This one is modeled after something much more modern, probably from the early 2000s, which is when the game was developed. Getting away from the food courts, you'll find a little mall directory, which is a nice touch, and then once you're out in the main area, you'll see one of the weirdest things in this game. The ceiling of the mall is pitch black. Practically looks non-existent. Like most of the stores in early GTA games, the shops here are all largely just flat textures on a wall featuring pictures of real stores, but there are a handful that have modeled interiors, like this record store featuring tons of blurry fake album art to look at, as well as a great texture of vinyl spines lined up on a shelf on the wall. I did some research to try and figure out if these textures were based on real albums, and as far as I can tell, they aren't, but if someone out there knows something I don't, definitely leave a comment down below. There's also a fully modeled jewelry store, a clothing store, a little smoothie stand, and a bookstore that you can't go in, but you can see inside of if you shoot out the windows, which you should never do to a bookstore. But the stores that really mesmerize me here aren't so much the ones with modeled interiors, but the ones without them. The images that Rockstar used for these fake storefronts are so detailed, clothing stores, frame shops, general retail stores, that I have to assume they were real places that somebody went out and photographed for the purposes of the game, which means we're looking at real snapshots of a random store at a particular point in time in the early 2000s. What adds to the surreal feeling is how the scale is slightly different for each one. For some of them, the doorways are more than large enough to walk into, but for others, you wouldn't be able to get in without ducking. This is actually true of a lot of the buildings in this game if you pay attention. Compare an area like this mall to the beginning of the game, and it starts to feel like these are two separate games with two separate budgets and attentions to detail. But it's not. It's all one game with two worlds. A world of care and attention, and a world of semi-abandoned liminal spaces. In some ways, that duality is similar to a real city, where some areas have better access to public services, better policing, and a higher standard of living, and others are just largely forgotten by the municipal authority. The next spot on our journey illustrates this divide perfectly. Prawn Island. Coming here was the first time in a Grand Theft Auto game that I ever felt like I ended up on the wrong side of town, so to speak. Like the first time I ever had that feeling of like, oh, I should probably get out of here. It's a collection of huge mansions on a little island that have all been abandoned and left to decay next to an old film studio that's out of business and rotting. So my assumption is that it's sort of meant to be a place that used to have a thriving Hollywood culture, but for some reason it collapsed and moved on. But why does it feel so destitute? Well, for one, all of the signage is chipping, rusted, and looks like it's from the 1940s. The movie posters are for shitty old movies like King Kong and Gone. Yuck. The hotel is advertising rates of $1.50 per day, bragging about natural soft water, which was a hotel amenity that people would have bragged about in like the 1930s. And the pharmacy, which has a sign that looks like it's from the 50s at the latest, is also completely shuttered. Now, funnily enough, it's my understanding that if you play the PSP game Vice City Stories, which is set on the same map 2 years earlier than Vice City, this area is actually bustling and full of life. So despite the fact that it looks like it collapsed during the Great Depression and was left to rot since, apparently it actually collapsed like 1 year ago, which is just, that's a heck of an economic downturn. Prawn Island also has one enterable building, which is one of the huge mansions over here. Going inside it, you'll see destroyed paintings, overturned furniture, graffiti all over every wall. Like so much of the game, including the mall, it's somehow both excessively detailed but also way too empty. It's eerie and really uncomfortable. I can't think of any places in the HD Grand Theft Auto games, 4 and 5, that gave me such an authentic feeling of abandonment, but now I feel like I should really go look. If you guys know of any places that feel truly destitute in the newer GTA games, let me know. If Prawn Island was intentionally made to feel abandoned, the next area we're going to was not. Huge empty lots. Right behind me is a huge area on the second island of Vice City that has absolutely nothing in it. It's just a huge weird area behind a lot of buildings that feels like it should have something in it, but it doesn't. It was just left empty and untouched. It's kind of like the beach that we looked at earlier, only on the first island in the game, that beach was really the only massive, weirdly empty spot, but on the second island, these spots are everywhere. It feels like every alley you go down or building you sneak behind hides a humongous empty field that almost makes you wonder if they were supposed to have invisible walls somewhere to prevent you from seeing them. But they don't, so you can come here, which I really appreciate, obviously. One of the interesting things to me about huge games like GTA is that so much of their world is stuff that most players will never pay attention to. It's really just background decoration that you glimpse while you speed down the streets in one of your cars. I've always wondered what it might be like if they made a Grand Theft Auto game where they just didn't put any effort into all of those background objects, instead focusing solely on places that they knew the player would be spending most of their time. And I guess now I know. You would end up with a game like Vice City, with its incredibly weird and beautiful vibes, mixing highly detailed interiors and produced cutscenes with vaporwave malls, creepy beaches, and empty lots all over the place. Now, the reason Vice City ended up like this is well documented. The game was made in an incredibly short amount of time, only about 9 months by most reports, and tons of content ended up getting cut because of how strict their deadlines were. Now, I'm not advocating for one approach over another, but I do think it's worth remembering, and I feel like we forget this a lot, that you are allowed to rush art, and there are even some benefits to doing so. There's this real obsession in games right now with making sure that developers have plenty of time to get it right, and that everyone should take their time, which may or may not include Rockstar Games based on recent alleged things that they allegedly maybe did that they maybe allegedly shouldn't have done. And without a doubt, you need to be able to take your time if you want to end up with a game like Cyberpunk 2077 or Red Dead Redemption 2. So there's nuance. But on the flip side, rushing things, cutting corners, compromising, these approaches have benefits sometimes. You end up with incredibly messy, inspired works of art that have really memorable, jagged edges that can stick with you for years. Games like The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask or Fallout New Vegas Hades, Shadow of the Colossus, Stalker. Nobody is going to tell you that these games are polished or even finished, but they do have a certain type of staying power that other more polished games tend not to. And Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I think, is a great example of that. Another really interesting consequence of the rushed feeling can be seen in our next location, Escobar International Airport. It's no surprise to anyone that I love airports, and I love this airport as well. I love that it's the only Grand Theft Auto game with a terminal building you can go inside. I love the long hallway down to the jet bridge. I love the little metal detectors. But the reason I wanted to bring you here tonight is actually totally unrelated to the building itself. It has to do with the NPCs. It was here in this airport terminal that I first noticed something that had been tugging at me throughout my entire playthrough of Vice City, and that's that the NPCs feel different. Look at the way they spawn here in this hallway. A collection of people who have no business being at an airport, much less walking to one of the gates. People in swimsuits, walking next to cops with their guns drawn. They feel out of place, and even more than that, I think they feel kind of trapped. The way that all the people here in this game behave is, just like the rest of the game, a really weird mix of impressive and uncanny. They walk like zombies down the street, spawning wherever you need them to, barely reacting to anything nearby, like they're in a constant stupor. But they've also started doing things in this game. Things that have nothing to do with the player. They rollerblade now, they sit on benches, they take the bus, they sunbathe, they kill each other, they chase each other around. There are these little glimmers of humanity in these NPCs that I don't remember seeing in Grand Theft Auto 3. But even weirder than that, I don't remember seeing these things in Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5 either. I'm not saying they aren't there, they definitely are, but for some reason they didn't stick out as much in my mind, because in newer GTA games they do a pretty good job of hiding that the NPCs are just props for you to look at as a gamer. They spawn in really smoothly, they react a little more realistically, they walk more naturally. It's just a really good illusion. But here in Vice City, it's still clear that these are props. You can literally see them spawning in. They behave like dumb robots. But then every once in a while, something happens. For example, one of these dumb robots kills another one of these dumb robots, possibly for no reason and without due process. And when he walked away, leaving the body on the street, the other NPC robots come over to help. They're trying to help this NPC that just got killed by another NPC, but they can't. They're smart enough to know that something is wrong, but not smart enough to do anything about it. They are too dumb to save their robot friends. And that's actually kind of sad, or at the very least, it's weird. Eventually, the dead NPC disappears back into the void that they all come from, and one by one, the people who tried to help just go back to their routines, walking away until they despawn from the world. GTA 3 didn't have this problem. The NPCs in that game were dumb enough that they were believable as props in a video game. They didn't help each other when they got hurt, they didn't react at all really to being messed with. GTA 4 doesn't have this problem because the NPCs are smart enough to behave in ways that are smooth and believable. And there are just tons of unique behaviors to witness, so it kind of covers it up. But Vice City sits right in that valley in between where things get super uncanny. Some kind of uncanny valley, you might say. And I think it's fantastic. I really like it. As I'm sure you noticed by now, there are 6 mystery areas on our map here that we've been skipping over. These mystery areas are honorable mentions for this journey, little smaller spots that I felt like showing you that weren't notable enough for a full section. And what I'm gonna do is I have this giant pot that I could make soup in potentially, and inside of it I've got 5 pieces of paper, one for each of those mystery areas, and I'm gonna pick 3 of these mystery areas to show you now, okay? And then the other 2, too bad. Now this is gonna be totally ad-libbed, so bear with me. Mystery area number 1. Oh, this is a good one. The creepy shacks. So the creepy shacks are these empty, abandoned, weird shacks on stilts out in the middle of the ocean, south of, like on the southern portion of the map. On one of the 3 shacks, you can find a little activity to do, but the other 2, the ones that you're seeing here, are completely empty. There is nothing. My assumption is that these shacks were something that were supposed to be part of some bigger thing that then got cut from the game, but then they left the shacks in anyway. But as it stands, it's just this little area that you can go walk around in that has absolutely no purpose and is honestly a little bit creepy. All right, weird place number 2. I'm so glad that this one got picked. The weird rooftops. So these weird rooftops are things that I noticed once you unlock the helicopter in the game, you can fly around. And there are these 2 rooftops near Ocean Drive, which is near the beginning of the game, that on top of, they have these really, really low resolution fake pools. And you can land the helicopter and you can jump off and walk around on these fake pools. They don't look real at all. They look absolutely terrible. But they have this really weird neon blue glow to them. So obviously the assumption is you're supposed to think that they're believable as pools from really far away, but they didn't expect you to go up very close because there's obviously no reason to do that. My favorite thing about it is that next to one of the pools, there's a door that goes into the building that it's on top of. And from far away, it looks like a normal door. But when you get up close, it's like a tiny, teeny, tiny little door for a mouse. It's really funny. All right, and then the last ones. There's a big one here that we may or may not pick. Let's see. We're gonna go with this one. Okay, good. I got the good one. The Vercetti Mansion. So the Vercetti Mansion is the main character of the game. Once you sort of get to the top of the criminal underworld, you take over this mansion and it becomes your home. This mansion is insane. It has long, weird, creepy, empty hallways everywhere. It has this like pool area down below that's constantly filled with NPCs that just talk way too much. But then it also has, like the rest of the game, these weirdly detailed, elaborate rooms. My understanding is that this mansion is based on the mansion from the movie Scarface, and there's one of the rooms with these security monitors in it. It looks a lot like the main room that Tony Montana would always stay in and do this. There's this drug, don't worry about it. But this mansion it's just incredible. The basement has really weird liminal space vibes, but the whole thing kind of does. So it's an iconic location. I'm really happy to get to show it to you. And that is going to be the end of the honorable mentions. And that takes us to our final spot on this journey, and by far my favorite weird thing about Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the donut shop. This, believe it or not, is meant to be a donut shop. No tables, no chairs, no lights, office building ceiling tiles. And do you recognize the cashier? That's right. It's the same guy working at every shop in the city, including the food court at the mall. As far as I can tell, the selection at this donut shop looks more like some kind of Asian food buffet than donuts or coffee. And the only indication inside of what they actually sell here is a sign on the wall that says they have 24/7 squirt available. But rest assured, on the outside, we're told that this place has coffee, bagels, and donuts. There are so many stores like this in Vice City whose sole purpose is to be places that you can rob as the player, just as like this little side activity to kill some time. And each one of these stores that you can rob is weird in its own way. My favorite of these, aside from the donut shop, is the insanely surreal grocery store that looks like something out of a liminal space nightmare. I can't even tell what's on the shelves here. Coconut water? Tomato soup? Is that salami? Pretty sure this is produce at least, like peppers or something, maybe some kind of lettuce down there. And here we've got general chips texture. It's actually crazy to me how I can tell that this is chips and that this is produce, because I can't actually pick out a single discernible item. It's kind of like looking at AI art, only AI art didn't exist, at least in the same way, in 2002. We've also got this place, a parody of Rite Aid, with a prescriptions counter and advertisements for various drugs, as well as health and combat enhancement pickups. That's cute. Or this dispensary, which I'm not sure if you would have that in the 80s in Miami, but maybe the Green Cross meant something else back then, I don't know. And this dispensary has unbelievably high quality textures of various supplement bottles on the shelves. These stores really illustrate the theme that runs through the entirety of Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which is inconsistency. Beautiful, strange, annoying, atmospheric, inconsistency. And I think that's kind of why the community of the game has stayed relatively committed in the intervening years. In some ways, I can totally understand why Rockstar would look back on this game and feel like there was so much left unsaid, so much more detail they could have added. And I don't blame them for wanting to revisit the location for Grand Theft Auto 6, and I'm really looking forward to exploring that game as well. But I'd be lying if I said that part of me wasn't going to miss the vibe of the original Vice City. It's not exactly the vibe that I was sold on, but it's a vibe nonetheless. Now, the only Grand Theft Auto game I still have to play is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, so I'll get into that soon, and I'll be sure to make a video about it as soon as I beat it. I'm Annie Austin. Thanks for watching.